Hi, my name is Charles Malki, biologist and plant expert with Ivory Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're on the property of Kevin Espiritu of the Epic Gardening YouTube channel, and among other social media I'm hoping you can share with us, but he is the leading, most followed gardener in the world. Just on YouTube alone, he's got over 800,000 followers. He's got a Spotify podcast you can follow him on Facebook. I think you're approaching now over 200,000 followers there. Instagram, another tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers there. Welcome.
Thank you, Charles. It's good to have you here.
Thank you so very much. Before we get started, and before you give us a tour of your beautiful garden, and I know you just moved into your new property a few months ago, can you share with us a little bit about how our viewers can get connected to you and all of your social media sites, where they can all learn more about gardening while they're driving their cars, or when they're sitting at home watching YouTube, or just basically all the different resources? What do you got to share?
For sure. Yeah, so Charles pretty much hit the nail on the head. Anything that you would consume content on, I'm on, just as Epic Gardening, even down to TikTok. I don't know if you use TikTok, Charles, but
my kids are on TikTok.
Yeah, so I'm now reaching the kids on TikTok too. And then the only thing that's not called Epic Gardening is I have a book out called Field Guide to Urban Gardening, and that's at bookstores or Amazon, or, well, I guess when we can go to a bookstore, you can find it there, but right now we can't, so.
Sounds great. I'm gonna share all of these links. So I'm gonna try to list at least the top 5 people can find you on. So one's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Yep.
What would be the Spotify? Would that be the link?
Yeah, the podcast is anywhere you listen to a podcast. So it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes, it's on any podcast player. Just type in Epic Gardening, it'll be right there.
Fantastic, as well as an author in that book I'm going to share with you as well here on the screen, and share all of those links you'll find down below. So let's take a look now at your front yard garden, and starting off with this wheel. I mean, you've got this artistic structure here on your property.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it, where you got it from, and then show us what you've got planted.
For sure, yeah. So this wheel, I believe it's like a moon arbor, it's called. It's called the Gracie Arbor from Terra Sculpture, who is actually kind of near where you're at, up in the Orange County area. And so this is it's just a pretty snazzy arch. They sent it out as sort of like a housewarming gift, which is like very nice of them. But it's cool because what I'm going to do, you can see there's these little metal wires connecting the sides of the arbor together. And so since I can grow year round, I'll just grow vining crops year round. So some fall peas will come in, and then when spring comes around, I'll do like probably another round of peas, and then it's summer, it's like cukes, loofah gourds, whatever, anything that can climb in.
So it's unlimited.
So it's unlimited. And so the goal for this is eventually for it to be completely covered in green, with like picking beans, picking whatever off of it.
For sure.
Amazing. Yeah.
And just rotating crops depending on what the season is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And the nice thing is it's super, like I could lift this pretty easily. It's not that heavy at all. And so if I need to relocate it, I just pull the stakes out and I can move it around.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So another thing that Kevin specializes on is raised bed plant care, and Kevin is the distributor of Birdie's raised bed products, which come out of Australia, and there's a lot of benefits of using these Birdie's raised bed containers. Can you share those with us before we get into your garden?
Sure, yeah. So I have them all at my old garden right now. I told Charles I'm going to move them down pretty soon. But it's a panelized metal raised bed that the smallest one's 15 inches, but the tallest, they're really popular, are 30-inch tall.
Okay.
So if you're like me, if you're pretty tall or just elderly or mobility challenged, having a 30-inch tall metal bed that is going to never rot out and never rust or leach, boom, just lean over. You'd barely lean over to work in it.
For sure.
And then just, for me, the design, the aesthetics, the ability to hold up over time, I prefer to wood, even though as I speak, you can see red cedar raised bed back there, which nothing against wood, just as far as metal goes, I think it outperforms.
Share with us real quick, what are some benefits of using a raised bed, garden?
Yeah.
And how, versatile that can be used in. Let's say, obviously, the first one that comes to mind is I've got no land.
Got no land. Yeah, but grown on concrete, grown on bad soil, right? Let's say you took over a place and there's heavy metals in the ground and you don't want to mess with it.
Okay.
Or if you're renting and you got like compacted soil and you don't want to deal with fixing the soil for the landlord and then leaving in 2 years.
Correct.
So I think raised beds are fantastic for that. You're going to get in a climate where you do have a true frost, a true winter, summer, spring season, which we don't have. Even though here it's still a benefit, you're going to get a quicker warm up in the spring, slower cool down in the fall, just because literally the sun is hitting it earlier in the day and stopping hitting it later in the day. So you get a little bit of that. Ease of working in is probably one of my more favorite ones. And then, you can also customize your soil conditions to a particular crop or family of crops. Let's say this bed's always going to be for blueberries per se, then that's got to be a pretty acidic soil compared to everything else. So you can section that off in your raised bed and just boom,
you control it.
Totally. Yeah.
That's great.
A lot of control.
Well, another one I want to share in a reason I would, and I'm actually interested in bringing one of the Birdies raised bed containers on my property, inspired by Kay Cottrell of the Late Bloomer Gardening YouTube channel. And when I visited her property about a year ago, she did an excellent job of layering the plants within her garden. So she's got her established trees that are in the ground. She's got her potted flowers that are in a container. But what a raised bed would do is help me, because most of my property is already planted and the trees are about as close as they can be to one another. Following the Dave Wilson, Tom Spellman backyard orchard culture concepts. But for me to plant more into the ground is now competition between the roots, but a raised bed would now empower me to bring another level, another layer of gardening into my garden and just maximize, the square footage and the use of my real estate. So I'm excited about getting one of those Birdies raised beds into my property, hopefully with your assistance later on today.
Yeah, we'll get you covered.
Fantastic. Well, let's take a look at the things you got planted here in your garden. Here we are the first week of August. And share with us what you've got going on.
Let's do it.
So here we are next to one of your planted beds, and you've got all of these different color spots. It looks like there may even be some herbs in here. But typically when it comes to gardening, most people are talking about food, but I see there's actually quite a bit of color. Kevin, explain to us what's going on here.
Yeah, this is a recent development for me because I'm like you, where I used to say if I can't eat it, why grow it? Which to some degree I still adhere to, but you got marigolds in here. There's a legit benefit for those as a beneficial. Honestly, just having a little more beauty in my smaller garden, I couldn't really sacrifice a lot of space for raw beauty as the only reason to do something, because I only had 150 square feet. I had like 10 raised beds and that's it.
Yeah.
Here, as you can see, this is barely even a chunk of the 12,805 square feet or whatever that I'm on.
Fantastic.
And so I can sacrifice a little bit, and just having a little bit of beauty in here, I think just spices it up. There's a lot of green behind me, my favorite color, of course, but having some extra stuff just makes it a little bit more pretty to be out here.
That makes a lot of sense. So the marigolds that you have in your garden, just one of the benefits is that helps also deter and repel a lot of pests away from your desired plantings. I see here in the garden we're going to be viewing shortly are some corn and tomatoes, among other plants. And so let's do that tour and show us what else you've got planted here in your garden this month of August.
Let's do it. Okay. So this bed here actually is one of my favorites in the front yard. I just like growing corn in urban spaces. I think it breaks up people's preconceived notions of what you can grow. And so this is a bed of corn. I've got some dragon's tongue bean here in the front. Now, with every new space, you learn things, I'm sure, as you know, Charles. And so what I've learned is I can't compete with Bermuda grass in this front yard. It's just absolutely nasty. And so I'm always picking out little bits of the rhizomes that have propagated themselves in here. So this entire section is probably going to end up being those Birdies raised beds that we talked about, just to get rid of that, because in the backyard I don't have as much Bermuda grass pressure. But I sowed these, again, it's early August, but in our climate you can get what we'll call a second sowing, or like a shoulder crop, out of this corn. Especially this is a variety, Japanese black sticky corn, that I'm harvesting early and processing more as like a dessert, turning it into some sort of like a sticky dessert type of product. So I'm excited about that. I like the idea of theming my beds. So this is sort of my, kind of like my last flare of summer bed. And then as we move over here, this one over here is a Thai garden. So my friend Supani runs a pretty popular Thai restaurant here. She came by and dropped off all these plants, and we've got lemongrass, Thai ginger, Thai peppers, Thai basil, some of her favorite flowers. So that's that. And then even behind that one, if you can see it over there, we've got a salsa garden. So some classic tomatoes, jalapenos, onions, green onions, and even some habaneros there. Just theming the bed. So I have something to look forward to from the bed, instead of just having random stuff that I don't know what I'm supposed to do with. I'm like, okay, well, when that's ripe, that's a salsa garden. I'm turning that into salsa. So that's kind of what's going on in these in-ground beds, which is a new method that I'm experimenting with, because I've traditionally, as you mentioned, always grown in raised beds.
So notice you got a young avocado tree here in your garden, and you've whitewashed it, and I'm hoping you did so organically.
I did actually. Well, I mean, that's the way we really connected, as I was moving into this space and finding out the world of trees. I was looking up Dave Wilson's Backyard Orchard Culture, threw that into YouTube, found your stuff on it, your interviews with Tom Spellman and such.
Awesome.
And so, reached out to you and said, hey, I got some trees, like, I need some help. I don't want to put latex paint on them. And so, thankfully, graciously, you sent out some product and have been testing it out, really liked it. The nice thing is that I've painted this one, I painted the one over there, so I got a Haas and a Bacon. Perfect. Trying to do a little bit of that, like,
cross-pollination
through the year, yeah, because A and a B, right? And then I think I should get in perfect conditions 10 months a year fruiting, which for me, that's enough. I don't need avocado for more than that. So yeah, I threw some of this stuff on, which was awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I have a lemon tree on the property, and I did not do that. I used that tar-based style, and that's before I knew about this, and obviously I'd much rather go with something like this. And so I've been really pleased with it. It seems like the avos are taking really well for the new climate.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you've put on the Ivory Organics, a 3-in-1 plant guard as a brush-on solution. So you've basically filled up the can with water. But what I wanted to demonstrate while we're here together is I've noticed that the leaves can also be whitewashed as we're going during, into the hottest months. And in fact, just in general here in Southern California, August 26th, which is about another week or two away, is the hottest day on average of the year. So we're still approaching the hottest, and there's still going to be record heat going into September too. So this is an opportunity to help the new planting stay cooler and let those roots, root, get established, and not have to, fend for first, second, and third degree burns, and instead focus more so on root growth and ultimately, more height growth. So what I wanted to propose, and something you can also do with your can, is dilute it down. This little pint-sized can can make up to 5 gallons of foliar spray. So you can do like an entire nursery, an entire orchard just off a pint-sized can. But this here is the ready-to-use 3-in-1 plant guard that I want to spray with your permission on the leaves and the stems. So let's get that done.
So it is also protecting against sunburn at the same time, even though it doesn't have quite as much of the white color.
Exactly. So it's still white. It's going to leave a residue that is, equivalent to about a dilute milk. So it's offering it some sunscreen protection, but it's not going to be as thick as the brush on.
Got it.
But if you take a look now, all the stems, the leaves, all of it's got some protection that otherwise would not be there. So you've now,
I can see it.
So you've now, in essence, pretty much whitewashed the entire plant structure.
And so the question I think a gardener might have, I certainly would have early on, would be like, how much does that impeding photosynthesis very much, or no?
Great question. We get that a lot. In regards to the plant's ability to manufacture sugars, in addition to the proteins and all the things that the leaves are doing, there may be some effect, but the plant is the product, unlike a latex paint or tar-based product, it dries on porously. You can still foliar feed through it. It's a very dilute, very thin application to the plant, so it's still able to photosynthesize and make all of the sugars and proteins and all the other things that the leaves are doing. So it will bring it back some, but the goal is, again,
it sounds like it's more of a trade-off. Like that minimal trade-off for the gain you're getting on the protection is way worth it, right?
The gain you're helping with the transplanting of the plant, you're moving it, you're trying to get it established, and this is just going to help alleviate that stress. So it is a cost benefit, but it's a very small cost for the great benefit you're going to get from whitewashing the entire structure.
Okay, makes sense.
Thanks. So here we are at another section of your garden, and you want to share with us what's growing on over here?
I love the pun. Yeah, so this is the raised bed. We're in the middle, almost wrapping up doing a TV show here. So the goal was like how to break ground on this area. Looks like we just got recognized by a couple people. They probably saw Charles from Organics, and they said, "Hey, that's Charles." No, so built a big red cedar raised bed because that's the accessible way to grow in a raised bed. Not to just say, "Hey, go buy a metal raised bed for me." I want to always showcase how to do it without having to buy something. Although you have to buy the wood, but in the end, you got to buy something.
For sure.
So this is just a big, tall, 12-inch tall raised bed that I'm sitting on. But actually, one of my favorite methods I've been growing in lately are these grow bags. So mobile, and then they've got that air pruning benefit that the containers don't have, which I would imagine would be amazing for fruit trees. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like you can get some good fruit tree action out of these too.
So I'll just share real quick. So with these grow bags, which I'm going to share with you right here on the screen, you can see that it's basically made out of a felt material. So it's providing that root ball a ton of oxygen compared to what you would get in a traditional plastic container where there just may be a few holes at the bottom.
Even terracotta, I think it outperforms on the porosity of terracotta.
So the plant's benefiting all of that oxygen, in addition to, you know, when you go to water the container, you're always supposed to water it very, very well, but it's also allowing that water out very easily as well, more so than, again, the traditional containers. So
for sure, and that's why you see me trying to counter some of the benefit. You get that crazy drainage, right? And so I've created what I call the grow bag bathtub here, and some of these really thirsty plants like these tomatoes here, I can fill the bottom up and get a wicking action going on. And so if I want to keep it moist a little bit longer, that's my way to do it. Other way would be this huge, this is a 100-gallon grow bag back here, and I've got some Japanese pickling cucumbers, some Thai chilies in there. And so the bigger the volume of soil, the less you're gonna get that porosity drain off on the outside. So you get a lot of benefits from them, and I can, even that 100-gallon one, like with your help, I could move that anywhere in the garden very quickly, and that's like effectively picking up a raised bed and moving it. So if you're a portable style gardener, it's a great way to do it.
No, I love seeing how much food you've integrated into your garden, and you've only been here a few short months, and you've accomplished so much. I'm sure a lot of viewers are pretty envious of what you've already accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about it. As you can see, I think maybe in the corner, there's a lot of untamed space here, but I've carved out at least a little chunk to do some production, and you know, with your help, been doing a lot with fruit trees, or at the very least getting excited about it and like researching and stuff.
Well, I'd always be happy to help and support your gardening efforts, however, whenever, and also enjoy, you know, another weekend down here in San Diego whenever you're ready for me.
Sure.
For those of you watching, continue to support. Be sure to follow all that epic gardening, and here we are with Kevin Espiritu has to offer. I'm sharing that link to the Epic Gardening YouTube channel right here on the screen. Be sure to click on it, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the push bell notification to get reminded of all of his educational lessons as soon as they become made available. As always, keep growing with Ivory Organics, and wishing you all.
See you guys.
Happy gardening. Good.
Nice.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like that.